Good morning and welcome to Meet Your Future campaign. My name is Sally Cheshire and I'm part of the Education, Work and Skills team at Greater Manchester Combined Authority. For those of you who've joined us before, you might be aware of the Meet Your Future campaign, which was launched in 2019 by Andy Burnham, Mayor of Greater Manchester, to enable more young people like you to meet and connect with different businesses, employers and explore the various roles and careers. Now, in 2025, we're excited to host these sessions in partnership with Greater Manchester Police's Cybercrime Unit. To celebrate Safer Internet Day and National Apprenticeship Week, the Greater Manchester Police's Cybercrime Unit want to focus on raising your awareness around the roles in cyber and policing to highlight apprenticeship opportunities. These sessions, you will hear from Sophie Newburn, a Cyber Protection Officer in GMP's Cyber Crime Unit, and the session will contain information, tips to help you becoming a victim of cybercrime. Thank you for joining us and we hope you find this week's session inspiring and informative. Please make use of the question box for any questions or thoughts you may have throughout the session. You will see this on the right-hand side of the screen and we're publishing any questions that come through. Please ask your teacher to put questions in this box and don't be shy. We'll cover these in the Q&A at the end. If you would like us to use captions or subtitles during the event, please select captions and subtitles on your video controls. I'm now going to hand over to Sophie and she will take you from here. Thank you very much, Sophie. Over to you.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, Sally, I've got my screen loaded. If you could just let me know when I am all good and live.
You are good and live now.
Perfect. Okay, so good morning, everybody. My name is Sophie and I am the Cyber Protect Officer for Greater Manchester Police. So it's my job to give people advice and information to stay safe online. So hopefully today you will learn a couple of things, find it a little bit interesting and maybe look at some things that you might want to do in the future that you didn't realise that you wanted to do. So before I cover any of the techie ways that I think you should be able to stay safe online, I'm just going to cover a little bit about physical security. With being from the police, we think this is really, really important. And you can also have the techiest device, the latest iPhone, you can have the best antivirus software, but as soon as you drop that phone or spill a drink on it, it's no longer going to be able to be used or have any of your useful things on there. So I just want to make sure that first and foremost, we are looking after those devices that I am sure our parents and grandparents and carers have spent a lot of money on. So the first thing is to secure all of your devices with a PIN code or a password where possible. So information that is on your phone is really, really valuable to criminals. They will want to steal that information. It could be that it's your mobile number, it could be your email address, your address, your usernames, your bank details, anything that could be linked in any of your apps or any of the things that you have on that phone is useful to criminals. So we need to make sure that we're protecting it. So if your phone is lost or stolen, nobody can get hold of your information that is on there and your pictures and contacts. The next thing is if you are travelling to and from school with a device. Now, I don't know what the rules are for your school and whether you are allowed to take phones, laptops, iPads, but if you do, make sure that you are keeping them out of sight. Now, the number one item stolen on a daily basis in Greater Manchester, and I am sure far and wide as well, is a mobile phone. So if you can keep yours out of sight, send all your messages, do what you need to do, and then just pop it away until you get where you're going, you will be less likely to be part of that statistic and have your phone or device stolen. Don't leave them unattended. I've already mentioned damage, so drops, spillages. Make sure you are really looking after those devices. I'm sure none of you would want to be without your devices at all, so make sure that we are keeping them safe. If you can put a cover on them or a case, a screen protector, anything that could mean that it's just that little bit more safe from being damaged. If you log into any accounts, maybe at school, you might have certain systems that you use to complete some schoolwork. Make sure you're signing out of them when you're finished, because you don't want the next person to be able to come along and do things in your account or under your name, because then you don't want to get in trouble for something that somebody else has done. And the last one is really, really important. Now, we are currently in winter, so probably before and after school, it's pretty dark. And the thing we hate to see from the police is young people with their faces down being lit up by their phones while they're out and about going where they're going. Because number one, it advertises to criminals that you have a phone. And number two, it means that you're not paying attention to the possible dangers that are around you. So there's my tips on physical security, on how to physically protect your devices before we move on to the techie stuff. So the first thing that I am going to cover when it comes to online safety is passwords. Now, it sounds really, really basic and really, really boring, but the reason for 99.9% of the crimes my team deal with every single day are just because of really rubbish passwords. So in the same way as you lock your front door, or your parents lock your front door when you leave the house, a password locks your online world. That could be a social media account like TikTok or Instagram. It could be an online gaming account. It could be an online shopping account, online banking, emails. Any account that you've got that might hold information about you needs protecting with a really good password. So our advice is to not tell anybody else your passwords, even your best friends, because we see a lot of cases, particularly with young people, where they've shared passwords with the friends, they've then had a fallout and the friends have gone on and sent nasty messages and done things they shouldn't do on their ex-best friend's account. So we need to make sure, other than your parents, you make sure your parents can know your passwords and they can have a look at your accounts to keep you safe, but anybody else I wouldn't be sharing your passwords with. Even if you've got younger brothers and sisters, they might by accident tell people your passwords or share your information. So we need to make sure that you're keeping them to yourselves. The next thing is, don't use anything personal in your passwords. So no pets' names, your favourite celebrity's name, the football team you support, so no Manchester City or Manchester United 01, and memorable dates to do with you. So what we say is, if anybody in your class right now could possibly guess your password, so could a cyber criminal. There are lists of popular passwords that are used. I think a lot of popular ones at the minute involve like Harry Styles and Taylor Swift. We can't be using those. It's also really, really easy to find out the name of somebody's pet or what football team they support. So we need to make sure we're not using that kind of information. And the last one is to use different passwords for all of your accounts. And the reason I say this is because cyber criminals are a little bit lazy. And if they hack into one of your accounts, they'll use that same email and password to try and get into as many accounts as they possibly can. So we want to make sure that they can't do that, and that you have different passwords so that even if they get into one account, they still can't get into the rest of them. And it says on there, especially email. Now, I know in primary school, you do not go home in an evening and respond to emails. However, your email account is a little hub of everything you do online. If you sign into Instagram or TikTok, your username's usually email address. You might sign in, you might have an online shopping order where the receipt comes to your email. Anything that you do usually is connected to your email account. So even if all your passwords are different, a criminal could get into there and click forgotten password on everything else and reset them all. So if you change one password for me today, make it your email account and make it a super, super strong one. This is how we advise you to create a really, really strong password. It's to use 3 random words. So look around whatever room you're in, pick 3 different objects, write them down. That would be a password that has nothing personal to do with yourself in there. We also say the magic number is 12. So in the olden days, it used to be that passwords had to be 5 or 6 characters long. Then it became 6 to 8. Then it was over 8. Now it's over 12. The reason for this is because cyber criminals are getting more and more techie. So they have things called brute force attack machines where they can just click go on your TikTok account. This machine will whiz around and round and round and guess a different character every few seconds, and it'll go on and on and on until it's got the full password, even if it's a random one. So the reason we say 12 is that statistically, these machines don't work if your password is over 12 characters. They will time out, the criminal will move on, and they will go on to somebody else, and your account will be safe. So the random words on my screen there, pen, apple, fish, they're not very long, but altogether they add up to 12 characters. And then if the website says you need a number or a special character, pop that on the end as well. But that should be a really good password for you all to use. And I'm sure you're all creative enough to think of 3 completely random words. The next piece of advice is about updates. Now, this sounds really, really simple, but a lot of you, I imagine, have smartphones, and sometimes they need updating. Sometimes individual apps need updating. Now, if you think about an app like TikTok, that holds data on billions of people, probably a lot of you that are watching today. Now, criminals from all over the world will try and hack into TikTok every single day. And the techie people at TikTok will watch their system 24/7. And if they see a criminal trying to get in anywhere, they'll do some fancy coding and they'll kick that criminal out. They then send that code into your phone in the update. So not only when you do an update do you get the new filters, features, emojis, but you also get those important security updates. And it means that if you have any app that you haven't updated, you're potentially leaving the door open for criminals to steal your data, your messages, your pictures. So we need to make sure we're always doing our updates. If you can go into your settings and tick automatic updates, it will usually do it for you every night while you're asleep because your phone's normally plugged in and connected to the Wi-Fi. So even if it means 5 minutes without your phone, make sure you're doing those updates and tell your parents and your family and your friends to do the same as well. So I'm now going to talk about social media. Now, I can't ask you a question because you can't talk back to me on here, but I am sure a lot of you know that to be on most social media platforms, you need to be 13 years old. Now, as this is a session for primary schools, I'm pretty confident that none of you watching today are actually 13 years old yet. Now, from the police, we do not tell you off for using social media. We know you are going to do it. We just need to make sure that you're using it as safely and as sensibly as you possibly can. So here's some advice for using social media safely. It's really, really important that all of your accounts are set to private. Now, young people sometimes want lots of friends and followers. They might want to be an influencer, the next big YouTuber, and I am not here to tell you that that could not be you. However, just while you are so young, especially while you're too young to be using social media, we need to make sure that our accounts are set to private, because if one person that you follow or that follows you or is your friend is somebody dodgy or somebody dangerous, you could be putting yourself and your friends at risk. And then once you've done that, only accept people that you actually know in real life, that you was expecting that friend request from. And then the last thing is to consider what your friends and followers actually need to know. Could you be sharing too much information? I've already talked about passwords, but if you're giving away on social media what your pet's called and then your password is your pet's name, or in your profile picture you've got a City shirt on and your password is MCFC123, could you be giving away that information? Now, I hope none of you are using passwords like that, so we should be okay, especially if you're using 3 random words, but just consider what you share and who you share it to. So this is a really important one for young people like yourselves. So once something is posted on social media, it is there forever, even if it's deleted. Now, there are a few pictures of celebrities on my screen there. You might recognise some of them, you might not. The first one, you probably do recognise. It's Kevin Hart. Is a famous comedian and actor in a lot of films, very, very successful. Now, the reason all these celebrities are on the screen is because they've all posted something on social media that has got them into trouble. So Kevin Hart posted in 2011 an offensive, nasty tweet. It was something that was homophobic. He's since deleted it. So because he's so rich and famous, he will have a team of people that will make sure his social media looks beautiful and not offensive and make sure everything's okay. They will delete anything that shouldn't be on there. Fast forward to 2019 and Kevin Hart is supposed to be presenting at the Oscars. This tweet gets found. It gets sent around everywhere and the Oscars call him up and sack him. They say, we're not associating with somebody that posts things like that. We don't want you presenting for us anymore. And Kevin Hart got cancelled. Now, he had to do a lot of apologising, a lot of work, and since he has worked his way back. But the reason that I tell this story is because if somebody as rich and famous as Kevin Hart can't hide a silly tweet, what chance do you have? And what chance do I have on like just normal people? Because these days, universities do social media scans, big companies do social media scans as standard, and they will check things that are there and things that have been deleted. And I don't want you to work really, really hard in school, high school and university to get the job that you really, really want and then miss out on it because of something silly that you've put on social media while you're young. And I'm meaning anything from like posts, likes, tags, shares, comments, private messages. All these things can be found even if they're deleted. So be as sensible as you possibly can from today onwards to make sure that you're not putting anything on social media that could come back to bite you in the future. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about location settings. So a lot of apps and games that you go on might automatically download with the location services switched on. Now, I bet a lot of you that are watching will recognise the picture on my screen there of Snap Maps off Snapchat. So you just swipe up when you're on Snapchat and it puts you on the map. You can zoom right in to the exact street and house that you're at, and it's a live location. The reason I use Snapchat as an example is because that's a naughty one. They didn't ask permission to do that. They just put people on the map. And I would usually ask you what mode you need to be on to not be on the map. And I'm hoping a lot of you are saying ghost mode, or you knew that you should have to be in ghost mode to not put yourself on that map. It's not important for strangers or other people on Snapchat to know where you are, especially as a live location that updates. It could put you in a little bit of danger. So always make sure that you are checking your location settings in all of your apps and you're not sharing them. The only thing I would say to share your location in is say Find My Phone or Find My Friends that is connected to your parents so that they can see where you are. Social media apps and games don't need your location. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about online bullying now. Now, as year 5 and 6 pupils, I imagine you have spent a lot of time working on bullying, learning about bullying. The only difference between cyberbullying and regular bullying is that cyberbullying happens online or on a device. It can happen in messaging, it can happen in gaming apps, and ultimately there are a lot of bad effects. Even though that bully can't see the effect it's having on the other person, it can really affect them. And I'm sure a lot of you know that if somebody's being bullied, they might feel upset. They might feel like they have no friends. They might not want to go to school. Think about what that could do for their future and their career, just because somebody else is being nasty to them. In absolute worst case scenarios, they might want to hurt themselves. And sometimes you don't know how your words affect someone else until it's too late. So we need to make sure that we're being as kind as possible, as much as possible. Now, the other thing that a lot of people don't consider is what are the effects of being that bully? Often, bullies feel guilty and they might regret what they've done. They might end up isolated because people don't like nasty people. What seems funny right now certainly won't do when you're older. Now, while you're in school, you kind of have to spend time with the people that are in your class. But when you're older and you get to choose who you spend your time with, you certainly won't be picking nasty people. Sometimes bullies end up being bullied in return. They can get into trouble with parents, teachers, and certainly from the police. If bullying goes too far and somebody gets hurt, the police will get involved and they will have a look at everybody that was involved. We will be able to see group chats, messages, pictures, and anybody that's been involved in any way, even if you've just been encouraging it or liking it, then you could get in serious trouble in the case where things have gone too far. So we need to make sure that we're being as kind as possible and that we're surrounding ourselves with other people that are kind and making sure that they're kind. And if you ever see that somebody's getting bullied, make sure that you tell somebody, a parent, a teacher, somebody that you trust. If that's you that's getting bullied yourself, the same applies. Tell someone, report it to the platform. So if it's online bullying and they're messaging you on WhatsApp, report it on WhatsApp. If it's Snapchat, report it on there. If it's in a game, do the same. Block the person and don't reply under any circumstances. And the last thing I would say is make sure you are still turning up to school. Turn up to your clubs, join a new club, a football team. Make sure that you are still getting out there, because it feels like the end of the world, but it won't last forever. Now, if you are being bullied and you are too embarrassed to tell someone, or you don't feel like you have anyone that you can tell, you can call Childline on any phone, completely free, 24/7. So any time of the day or night. The phone doesn't even have to have credit on it. You can ring and somebody will be at the other end of that phone and they will offer you support. The number is 0800 1111. So I'm just going to talk about a little bit of a more serious topic now, and probably a little bit of an embarrassing topic, but I'm going to talk about indecent images. Now, when I'm talking about that today, I mean any picture of anybody under the age of 18 without any clothes on, naked, partially naked, and ultimately we need to say that we shouldn't be taking pictures of ourselves without any clothes on. If anybody ever asks you to take a picture like that, you report it straight away to a parent, to a teacher, to a carer, certainly to the police, and make sure that you aren't speaking to that person anymore. Other things that are important to bear in mind is that it's actually illegal to take, have, or share these kind of images, even if you're under 18 yourself, which means that as a child, if you take a picture of yourself without clothes on, that is illegal. If you have it on your phone, that is also illegal. If you then send that picture to somebody else, that is illegal. And then that other person that has received it, even though they didn't ask for it, them just having that on their phone is also illegal. So we need to make sure that we're not taking or sharing these kinds of pictures. Now, we're not here from the police to get young people in trouble. We'd rather protect you. So if you find yourself in one of these situations, make sure that you do report it, you do speak to somebody, and we can protect you and make sure that image is removed from as many places as we possibly can to make sure that it's not been screenshotted or shared. Something that is less serious but more common are TikTok videos. There are so many inappropriate TikTok videos, songs, dances. Make sure that you're only making content that is sensible and sharing it on your private accounts with people that need to see it. Now, there's a website on the screen there called IWF. It's the Internet Watch Foundation. You can completely anonymously report any indecent image of a child on there. If it's yourself, if it's someone else, one that somebody sent you, one that you've seen in a group chat, you can report it. The team work to protect that young person. So that's a really good website. We'll be sending all these resources out to your teachers afterwards, but that is a really good resource to use. So that's iwf.org.uk. Okay, so I'm just really quickly going to cover a couple of things that are illegal when it comes to being online. So one thing that you might not know is that if you log onto somebody's phone or account without permission, that is illegal. Even if you just read the messages or have a look at things, that is illegal. And you can get up to 2 years in prison for that one. It's Section 1 of the Computer Misuse Act. The next one is if you do that, you log onto someone else's phone or account without permission, and then you do something else, like you buy something or you send a nasty message. That's then Section 2, and you can get up to 5 years in prison for that one. The third one is using something called a booter tool. So this is if you damage any computer systems. Maybe you hack into your school network and try and take it down. Maybe a booter tool is something that you'd use in online gaming. And that is when sometimes you might be winning at a game online and somebody kicks you off the internet. And that's where they've used this booter tool to attack your IP address and shut down your network. That can be really serious because it's not just that person that it takes down, it can take down the whole network. What if parents are working from home? What if there's businesses on that network? And And for that, you can get up to 10 years in prison. So make sure we're not downloading any booty tools, any dodgy things, any how to hack a Snapchat account guides, because this can be really, really serious. Even if you just download it and you don't use it, make sure that you are being as sensible as possible when it comes to being on the internet. The average age of a convicted cyber criminal is just 17 years old. Now that's really young because that's average age. We don't want to send young people to prison, but unfortunately young people can be so techie. Sometimes they might end up doing things by accident that they didn't even realise. So hopefully today you've learned a little bit about what is legal and what is illegal. So I'm going to share all these resources on my screen with your teachers. Some of these are games, some of these ideas, like a little digital Duke of Edinburgh. You can work through modules, get yourself a bronze, silver and gold, and that is industry recognised. That can go on your CV. Cyber Sprinters and Google Interland are games. Remember to keep yourself safe online, be kind. And then I'm just going to get to my last little bit because I am running over. A little bit of an activity. If you would like to help us out on the cybercrime unit, if you could make a poster based on anything that you've learned in today's session, I will send the sheet out to your teachers. You can do it at home and your parents can send it to me, or you can do it in school and your teachers can send it to me. My email address is at the bottom on the sheet, and I will put my favourite ones out on our GMP social media accounts to help protect the public. So if you can make me a poster based on anything you've learned, we can share it and we can help, and I will put them out there and I'll make sure I give credit to you and your school. So thank you very much for listening to me this morning. I know that was a lot. I will hand back over to GMCA and see if there's any questions.
That's great. Thank you so much, Sophie, for that. And we hope you found that really, really insightful and really interesting. We've got a couple of questions in the question chat here. I've got one from Marland Hill School. What should you do if somebody sends you an inappropriate picture, Sophie?
Okay, that's a really good question. So I would advise that you report it. Make sure that you tell a parent or a teacher. And then once you've done that, make sure you delete that picture so that you've not got it on your phone. And then that person that has then taken it, if they've sent a picture and they've shared it with other people, I would say if you're that sender, don't delete it off your phone, because we will use that picture to then help make sure that we can find it anywhere on the internet and get that taken down so it's not gone anywhere else. But if you're just the recipient of that image, report it, tell someone, and then delete it.
That's amazing. Thank you. There's another one here from Frankie. What if someone tries to rob you for your phone and they have a weapon? What should I do?
I would never advise fighting somebody with a weapon. So if somebody does try and take your phone, I would just hand over the phone to that person. It is absolutely not worth getting yourself into any further bother or any change. But the advice at the beginning is really, really important to remember, because if your phone is completely out of sight, they're less likely to come and approach you and try and take that phone from you, because they won't know you've even got it. So yeah, certainly don't get into any fights over it. But if you can stop that happening by keeping it completely out of sight while you're out and about, then you might be a little bit safer.
Amazing. And there's another one here. Are the social media apps doing anything to prevent racist, homophobic posts being published?
Yes, they actually are. So if teachers particularly are listening, there's a website called the National College that you can go on, and they will give guides for every social media account and website. What they'll do is they'll tell you what it is, what they can do, what the features are to be concerned about. So for example, on Discord, there's a trust and safety section where parents can actually go on and filter exactly what content comes through to children. However, because that's in the trust and safety in the background, a lot of people won't necessarily know about it. So it's about, these cheat sheets are really good. So they tell you just on one page exactly what features and filters are out there. It also has a thing where if somebody's being nasty to a child and you report them or you block that person, often that person can just create another account and then target you again. On Discord, you can actually report their account to Trust and Safety, and they will block any further accounts from that IP address contacting you, so they can't even set up any more. Snapchat also has Snapchat Family Centre. Now the CEO of Snapchat apparently has a 10-year-old, so there is a lot more safety features on there. And again, you can filter for certain content, certain words, language, nasty language, and parents can see the contacts. They can't see the messages going back and forth, but they can filter certain things and they can see the contacts. So I will share all these things in my resources. But yeah, there are a lot of things that social media accounts do, but I think the main thing is to use them safely and use them with an adult so that you can make sure that somebody else is seeing what you're doing.
That's amazing. And then just one last one. There's quite a few in the question bank, which we will get back to you on, but obviously we are running out of time. But one last one, which I think is really, really pertinent for primary school children, as you've touched on, Sophie, there. Which apps are they allowed to use?
So they've all got 13 restrictions on them. That's not actually to do with the safety of the app. That's just to do with data protection. It's how them apps can store the data. So it's not necessarily safe or unsafe for them to use any particular apps. I'd say it's a really rubbish answer, but it really does depend on which ones the parents are comfortable with them using. I think it's a lot easier as parents if your parents use a certain app, they're familiar with it, they can help keep the children safe on it. But all of the apps can be used safely as long as you're in private, you're only communicating with your friends. Try and use ones that are not putting you completely public to everyone and have unfiltered content coming in. If you can be on a private account and communicate with people that you know, then you should be absolutely fine.
That's amazing. And one last one here that's just come in, which I think is quite a good one as well, and then we will finish, is what should we do if we've been cyberbullied?
Okay, so I did cover that in my slides, so that will certainly be going out there. But the ultimate thing is to tell someone, still turn up to school, block and report the person. So if they're bullying you on WhatsApp, report it to WhatsApp. If they're bullying you on Instagram, report it to Instagram, and then don't speak to that person. Even if you get really cross and really tempted to send them a nasty reply back, two wrongs don't make a right. You could end up getting yourself into trouble. So report it, block the person. And then if the messages are really, really nasty, keep evidence, keep some screenshots of them so that when you are reporting it to your parents, to your teachers, to the police, that you've got that evidence there to show it. But I wouldn't engage or speak to that person in any way.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Sophie, and we hope you found that really helpful. I've just put in the Q&A chat a slide and a link to the Greater Manchester Apprenticeship and Careers Service, which is on the screen in front of you as well. Now, this is where you can find and keep up to date with all things about Meet Your Future and anything we're doing at the Combined Authority, alongside any businesses, including Greater Manchester Police. What we've got is lots and lots of questions here. We will put together a FAQ session and send these out to you along with Sophie's notes as well, so that you can share these, you can share them with your parents, and you can talk about the fact that you've heard Sophie talk today and that you've learned some new information. We are here to help you and provide you with information like this around the use of social media and around the use of safe use, but we're also here, as Sophie covered on, to help you think about what you might want to do as a career when you're older. Now, some of you might be sat there thinking, I'm just in year 5, don't really need to know. That's perfectly fine. Some of us at 40 and 50 still don't know what we want to do, so don't worry about it and don't panic about it. But what we're here to do is help you explore those opportunities and speak to your teachers to find out more. We'd love to hear your feedback on the session, and what we would like to do is, if you want to attend any more Meet Your Future sessions that will be helpful to improve us for the future, we'd really, really like to hear those as well. And if there's anything you would like to cover as primary schools, we'd love to hear that too. But what I'm going to say now, because I know it's probably coming up towards lunchtime for you all as well, is thank you for joining us and have a fantastic rest of your day and rest of your week in the run up to half term on Friday.